Welcome to Film Study, an All-American Universe podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. What an episode. What an episode. But, yeah, I won't belabor the point. Here are me and Joretta, aka Written Flares, on Twitter's thoughts and opinions on episode 511 Time of All-American. Hope that you enjoy it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rate the podcast 5 stars, all of that good stuff. Here it is. Yeah, here it is. Also, want to say this before we hop in. We're fresh off the episode. We're about an hour removed from the episode, so these are our immediate thoughts. Just seeing the episode. All right, you ready?
Yes.
We're all a little bit out of sorts after. But while you pull it up, what were your initial thoughts about the episod?
This episode
And what would
was
you rate
a
it?
lot.
It was a lot.
This episode. Oh god. Okay, I'm gonna rate it a safe 7 because I'm in my feelings right now. So I might want to be spiteful and rate it lower. I might want to rate it higher because I'm. So I'm gonna just say
it's like the
7.
sentimental value of it versus I'd say a 7 is pretty good. I was gonna say something else, but to your point, emotions are high right now, so 7 is pretty safe. 7 is pretty good. I agree. I will agree on the 7. I will say this, in Spencer's words, I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm angry. But we'll get back to why I'm angry. And spoiler alert, is not because Billy died. That's not what I'm angry about. Even though, look, my prediction was wrong, but sort of right, because I said the only way that Billy would die is if Tay wanted to leave the show, and that was the case. Is that Tay wanted to leave the show, and they've just been keeping it hush hush for like the past year or so. So we'll get back to that when we get to that storyline. But there's a couple of things. I really want to talk about it first, but there's a couple of things we got to get through before we get to the infamous storyline. Preach and Amina. Preach is a detention cop at Crenshaw High. Amina says she got dropped off early. Preach and Cooper having lunch with Amina. Grandmother comes and is just like, we moving to Baltimore, Maryland. That's my hometown. Represent.
Okay.
They said they're moving to Baltimore. Yeah, I was like, oh, shut out. And said that they're moving at the end of the month. And told Preach like not to intimidate, threaten her, whatever. And while she was saying all this, I was just like, are you the same mother that let her children be in a gang? Like,
Right.
let's not forget you're Tyrone and Monique's mom. So
2 kids in the game.
Look, 2 kids. 2 kids out here playing in these streets. So, anyway, Coop's mom convinces the grandmother to come and meet Coop. Coop pleads for Preach's case. And eventually they come to a joint custody agreement that, Amina is only going to be with them 2 to 3 weekends a month, and she's going to primary residence with Preach. So what did you think about that?
Look, I was glad that he got to keep the kid, but I was like, y'all put it in the episode where suddenly it became hard to care because everything else happened.
Which is so interesting because I feel like this episode, which I'm like, pray not to see Amina on my screen again. I'm sorry. Good job for you, actress, for having a job, for booking. But I pray. that we don't have to have this. And I'm even going to be nice to this storyline because usually I am not a fan. I'll say this is one of the best executed episodes for this storyline. It was completely in the wrong episode, right? Because to your point, the sentiment of the more important things going down in this episode. But this is one time where I was like looking at this storyline, I felt like it flowed well, I didn't feel like it took away too much from the main storyline, because it was so short and so quick. But I'm like, exactly, we should have got this like 20 episodes ago and called it a day.
Right, because like you cared up until you cared so much about it, wanting him to keep his child, and then today it's like, oh, he keeps her. Oh no, Billy died. So it's like,
Right.
okay,
But I'm just like, I hope this is the resolution to the long drawn out story, and that we just never have to hear it again. And great, you guys went out with a bang. No pun intended. You went out with a bang on the Preach Amina thing. You should just leave it there. Leave it there as he gets custody, and that's it. Meanwhile, another surprise father, Asher. Asher and his life-changing news. Jaymee's pregnant, y'all. And we found this out in the first 5 minutes. I thought they were going to drag this because I had heard some rumblings. But I thought that they were going to drag this through the episode. But it was like, nope. 5 minutes in, we're telling you Jaymee's pregnant. We got more important stuff with Billy to deal with. So, boom. Jaymee's pregnant. We're going to have Asher have this sentimental, I'm going to be a father storyline so that Billy can give him advice. So, it was interesting, but like now that I'm thinking on it and I've had a second to think, where's Asher's mom? Where's Asher's dad? I understand that we needed to show Billy in this full circle moment, but I mean, I don't know. I was just
I mean, his parents are kind of screwed up, so he probably didn't even want to go to them.
That's
like that.
true, but I feel like they've also given Asher's parents a bit of a redemption arc. Like they've been there for him. You know, his stepdad is pretty cool. Blah blah blah. And it's just like, I know that Billy was saying all these things to Asher, like, oh, you were one of my favorite players, and blah, 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 blah. At one point, I was just like, the writers were keeping everybody guessing, because it was just like, could be Jabari, Asher, or Billy, or whatever. So I was like, at one point, I was like, is Asher dying? When he said, I just want to tell you how much you mean to me, or whatever.
Yeah, it did sound like he was giving his goodbyes. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
I
that
was
vibe
like-
they start doing. I was like,
I
hold
was
on.
like, come through, writers, keeping the suspense going. But obviously it was just so that Billy could have this like sentimental moment with Asher where he's just like telling a story about Olivia. Oh, I remember when she was grabbing my ear and blah blah blah. No shade to the story. But, you know, Asher is just really focusing on this news that he got about being a dad. And we'll get back to the ending of that in Billy's story when we get to his storyline. But what did you think about Asher's new news about being a dad? Do you think he's ready?
I mean, I guess he be trying to act like he mature, so I don't think he gonna be like a mom.
He's been mature for about a good I would say it's been about a season at this point, right? He went on a journey and at the beginning of season 4B around episode 8 or whatever, and now we're at 5-11 or whatever the case may be. So I'm just like, all right, got a good season under your belt of being mature, so I'll accept it. I'll allow it.
He think JJ his first baby anyway.
That, you know what? You're quite correct about that. You're quite correct about that. Yeah, so that's that, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Asher being a father. It's gonna make a joke. Are they gonna kill somebody else? No, I'm kidding.
I truly be thinking is they gonna make Jaymee die in like childbirth or something since she already got health issues. I'm concerned.
They
now.
said, "Look, we haven't killed anybody off in a couple seasons. We're overdue on a couple people." But, so, I'm sorry. Olivia and her pseudonym. So Olivia's article is picking up steam in major cities, and Christelle had to sort of decline an interview for her. But it said that basically her article won an award. And it was like the Bardot Journalism Medal or Award or something like that. And we don't get to see sort of the resolution of that because Olivia gets the news of the bus crash sort of simultaneously. I think actually she was the first one to know about it. So that was a little bit, that story kind of left on a cliffhanger. Number one, we didn't get that much of this story. We did see, you know, the impact of writing under a pseudonym on her, but we didn't get to see, like, so is she going to accept this award as herself? Is she, like, what's going to happen with this? That was sort of left on a cliffhanger. And I'm going to assume it's intentional, but I don't know. It's just interesting. What did you think about that?
I don't even I don't even remember that happening. Like, the only thing I remember with Olivia and the news station thing is finding out about the crash.
But that's what I'm saying. They literally only dedicated 2 scenes to this story. I was kind of shocked about that. Especially because we got so much of Preach and Amina, we got so much of Asher, and then it was just like Olivia got like 2 scenes for this. But again, I'm assuming that they left it on a cliffhanger for a reason.
Maybe come back later.
Come back later, but also like she worked on this article with her dad, so it was almost like introducing a storyline rather than like a full storyline for an episode itself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's interesting because, and I meant to say this at the top, but again, the news has to be scrambling. We're both script writers. We're both script writers, and that's because I feel like not often do you see a storyline introduced, I feel like, in 2 scenes like this, and it's not like at the end of an episode. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was like,
Yeah.
this was a storyline for this episode, but there was literally, it was basically like it was just introduced and dropped, and introduced for further down the line.
I will say that with this episode, and I think the episode before this, I felt like the way that they're filming the scenes, so for some reason when they're being put together before it turns into an episode, it's being put backwards some kind of ways, because stuff you'll see would have made more sense earlier in the episode. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I just and it's interesting because and this is the complications of Billy's death that present challenges to the character unless they take a couple time jumps here. But it's just like, we had this thing where Olivia was trashing her article in the previous episode and very proud of her article in this episode, and now it's just like, again, we can't get that full realization, which, you know, life. Yeah. But it'll just be interesting to see what they do, because I just don't want them to pick it up and drop it, and it just, yeah, I don't know, it felt incomplete. Incomplete. And now there's like a major thing that's going to complicate this particular storyline, or at least in my mind.
Hopefully she'll just be like, well, I done lost my dad, so I don't care no more. I'm going to put me and his name on this article. So that would be cool.
That's true. Yeah. We'll get back to my thoughts. And then I think a storyline that under the radar, I think, aligned with Billy's trajectory very well is Layla and Keating Records and her dad coming back. I'm actually just now appreciating how much it aligned with the story. And like, honestly, that as soon as they talked about legacy, I was just like, maybe he will die. It's like, maybe Billy is gone, right? They're bringing back a dad to talk about legacy. But, you know, JP comes, and number one, can we start off with this? He comes, and I don't know if you saw this because you came a little bit late, but he basically comes, and Layla's just like, yeah, I haven't seen you in months. And he goes straight into being upset about the naming of the record label, that the previous Keating Records has been renamed under that man, Clay.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you haven't seen your daughter in months, and you're coming to talk to her for a minute about the label name change, and then just dip it back out.
For a company he gave away. Like, sir, if you don't sit down.
Exactly. Sir, if you don't sit down and go somewhere. Because it's just like, again, weren't you trying to work on being a better dad, and you're still doing the same thing you were doing when she was in high school? Like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. So she talks to Jordan about that cute conversation about groveling, right? I don't grovel. Spencer interrupted my moment, so we didn't get to fully realize that. It's not happy about that. But essentially, she goes to Clay, and he's renaming the label Clay Taylor Entertainment or something like that.
Yeah.
But there's a joke about CTE because CTE is like concussion protocol in football. And so Layla's
Yeah.
like, that's like a football diagnosis. I don't know. I thought it was funny. Anyway, he's not using the name anymore. And the next scene we get is Layla in the back of her record label. And I promise you, when they first showed the dude that was sitting next to her, I was like, is that Sean Stockton?
Look, me too. But I was looking at him like, I was like, he kind of looked like him, but I'm not sure. The locks
Literally,
was
I was
throwing me
just like,
off.
thank you. I was just like, that looks like Sean Stockton for real, but I don't want to be wrong. And I had just seen him the other day on a TikTok because he had done this thing for 17 again
Hmm.
on TikTok. And for those who know, and I'm not talking about the Zac Efron, no, I'm talking about the Black 17 again with Tia and Samara and Taj, and Grandpa Gene. Um, but it was so funny to see him, and then when JP came in, it was just like Sean Stockton. I was like, I knew that was you. I
Oh, and for
knew
the
it was
young people
you.
who don't know, Sean is from Boys to Men. 'Cause I
Boys
know
to
somebody
Men,
was
Boys to
like,
Men.
who is
I
that?
know. And I will always remember him as the musical genius who did 17 Again's track like album movie. They had a lot of hits on that. The little swing dance, yeah, no, it was great.
Yes.
Um, so anyway, they're producing a song together. Layla dropped some knowledge. I was just like, that is a lot of lines to remember on the different way to cut the track. Like he was showing her
Oh
the
yeah, when
track,
she
and
was
she was just, I was just like, girl, I didn't know you knew all that.
me too. I was like, where she learned all this? But I'm like,
No,
okay.
because they always bring it at the end or the beginning. We never actually see her in the middle of making a song, so it was really cool that they
Right.
gave her that moment to show
Like
off
you
her
can tell
knowledge.
she's not just running the company, she actually been doing her homework.
She's been doing her homework, and you can tell because I think we've heard them say, right, and they've dropped these little hints like, oh, she has a knack for producing like her dad and blah 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 blah, but we've never seen her in the act, like creating a track, or basically like refining, let me say that, refining a track. So it
Yeah.
was really cool to see her sort of in the element actually refining a track, and I'm like, I hope they do more of this, just to show that she knows her stuff, because I think it's really cool for the audience to see. Switches up the pace a little bit just from performances.
You know
Um,
what I would like to see her do? Create
what?
a song.
Same.
That would be cool.
I need her to write a song. Maybe she could write a song about Billy's death. No, my gosh, that was too soon. Too soon. I think it was too soon. But JP, after seeing her with Sean and seeing the praise that Sean was giving her, um, basically says, you know what, I was tripping, as he was, but he's like, I was tripping. You are my legacy. My blood and my soul are back under one roof. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was a good little speech that he gave. Once again, when he gave it, I was just like, so Billy's dying. But I did think it was important for him to say, you know what, it doesn't matter, right? Because I gave up my label, did not give it to you as I should have, but you actually are the person that's continuing my legacy because you actually know your stuff. Whereas I feel like they presented Clay as somebody who's just like an industry guy, just like a regular industry guy.
Yeah, that was a
Um,
sweet moment.
yeah, and I think especially after Sean was saying all that stuff about how he was just like, what did he say? I took it to a bunch of different producers, and Layla was the only person that actually had some negative things to say about the track. So that she actually, again, that she actually has the touch. She actually has the touch, which to your point, I think that was really special. Um, getting into legacy. Billy Baker. Um, before we get to Billy, we're gonna do the backdrop of the combine and all of that stuff with Olivia.
Okay.
The whole backdrop that they had for Billy's death was the fact that Spencer has just found out that Billy is coaching at GAU, and not staying at Crenshaw. I have my thoughts on that, but we'll pause that for a second. And so Spencer's still sort of avoiding him because he found out, it was at the tail end of episode 9 he found out, and 10 he was upset with him, and 11 he's still upset with him. So he's avoiding Billy, but he's also avoiding Billy's daughter because Olivia, right, told Spencer that she's still in love with him in the last episode. So he's trying to avoid both of those people. And Billy was just a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. He thought that maybe being at the combine, he'd be further away from Billy, wouldn't have to speak to him physically, but he couldn't have the conversation with Olivia. So he goes to the combine after Jordan invites him. And Spencer goes on this tour of telling people what Olivia said. It was just like, oh, Liv wants to get back together. I have to pause there. What did you think of Spencer just going? Because I think he told Jordan, he told Coop. He told Coop in the beginning. He told Jordan then, and he told Grace, I think. So there's a lot of people. But what did you think about him avoiding her and then just telling everybody that he was avoiding her?
I don't know. I feel like he was looking for some advice, but it's like, stop. Just go talk to her. You're grown. Stop it. So
tell him that he's making more complicated than it needs to be with both Liv and Billy or something. And Spencer has and you know what? It makes sense because up until this point, Jordan has been sort of iffy when it comes to Olivia, and he's come at Liv a couple times because that's his sister. But Spencer straight up asked this man, "Whose side are you on?" And Jordan's like, "My sister." he didn't even say he's just like, "My sister."
If we being real, was a surprise because Jordan is.
It was. That's what I'm saying because he's been shady, yeah. But I was pleased. That he said his sister. And you know why? Now, do you know why it's hitting me that he said my sisters? Because there's a difference in Jordan sort of like voluntary, and maybe I'm just telling myself this, but I feel like there's a difference in Jordan voluntarily sort of coming for Liv as her brother than Spencer straight up asking him, whose side are you on? Like, I don't think Spencer has ever fixed his mouth to say whose side are you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Jordan was like, yeah, my sisters.
He was acting like a bit of a baby this episode that and ignoring Billy and mess. It's like, oh my goodness, he gonna hate himself next episode.
Which, again, I have some thoughts on. Like I said, Jordan tells him that he's making it more complicated than it is, and I was just like, exactly. And to your point about him acting like a baby, I just wanted to make note of this. I can't believe this man asked Jordan, "Oh, should I leave then?" Sir, get out of my face. Get out of my face. Like, what do you think he's just, yeah, leave. Like, no, you're at a combine. Like, stop, to your point, stop being a baby. Grow up. But anyway, like I said, he goes on a whole tour, so he ends up telling Grace that he avoided Olivia. And he tells Grace also this. He says, but like, are the reasons that we broke up, are they still there? And Grace tells him that Spencer has grown since they broke up. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with you.
I don't think so either. Like, it ain't even been that long.
I don't think he's grown at all. If anything, let me not. But let me just leave it at I disagree with Grace on that point. And Spencer goes by the house. That's when he ignores a call from Billy. Later he comes by the house again, and Liv answers the door, and he Am I like blocking this out of my mind because it was so traumatic? He thinks that she's talking about them, and actually she's the one to tell him that the bus crash happened, and they're just trying to find out if he's safe, which they do find out sort of right after that he is safe, for now. So Billy's death and the lead up to Billy's death. So I feel like I don't even need to like recap the whole episode because we basically said that Spencer was avoiding Billy because of the whole GAU thing. The whole episode was about Billy trying to think about this decision about GAU, right? And you have Grace, who had said that she had forgiven him, talking to Spencer, saying she forgave Billy. Spencer, who was still upset and avoiding him. And he's hosting this combine, and Asher's telling him these things and being sentimental, and he's thinking about being a father to the kids. Earlier in the episode, they had a Baker family breakfast and decided to have a breakfast once a month. And yeah, I think that was good for their family dynamic. They were just like, here's one last Baker family meal before we kill him off. And at this family meal, what is it? He's surprised that like Liv is actually baking something that's good. This was in the very beginning, so you bet if it's this. But he was surprised that it was like a blueberry toast thing, which was actually Layla's recipe. And Jordan was just like, wait, why didn't she make me that? And, Liv has this whole moment where she's like, oh, why would she make you that? Billy had a look. And so that's why later on down the line, he told.
Oh, yeah, I saw a clip on Twitter.
Yeah. So he told Jordan, right, when he let the news know that he was staying to coach at Crenshaw, when he let the players know without telling Jordan, by the way, first. But Jordan was surprisingly okay with it. He was just like, oh, and I approve of Layla too. They have him like patching things up with Jordan being happy for him, whatever he decided about GAU. They have Spencer ending on this. He's still upset at Billy declining his call. They have Grace having this final conversation with him, where he is talking about how he made the decision in the moment to say that he was staying at Crenshaw. And Laura and Liv, I guess that's it for you. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
At least they got to tell them they loved them.
Sure. So that was the whole thing, and of course he had all these moments with his players, Jabari, some random kids, right, and whoever else. After he tells the kids that he's staying at Crenshaw, he leaves Spencer a voice note to say that he was right about everything. It was this long voice note that we hear when we find out he's dead. And obviously he died because he went to go pull Jabari out of the bus. Yes, that's what happened. He was safe at first and he went to go pull Jabari out of the bus. Here's the thing. So I'm trying to think about how to intro this. I don't care that Billy is dead. And let me explain this. I do care that Billy is dead. Ripple effects. It's a very interesting story. I think it was a gutsy move on the writer's part to kill him off. But in terms of the character, I've never been a fan of his. Never.
That is true. You did. I remember.
So I'm just like, sure. Okay. But what makes me angry is the fact that this story came, and I'm not even going to say the time it did, because I feel like, they're just in college, whatever. This is, I feel like a good time to do it. But the storyline in which it happened. Because you have Billy dying, and I understand, I feel like a broken record at this point, but I understand that Spencer is the protagonist of this show. You don't even have him having these sentimental moments with Liv. Jordan got a small moment right after he was about to like screw him over again because Jordan decided not to
Mm-hmm.
transfer schools. But it's just like, I don't know, you don't let him, and I'm not even going to say a proper goodbye, but you don't let him have a real true goodbye to his family. But we get goodbyes with like all of the other characters. What do you think about that?
You know what? I didn't even notice it at first until you said something, but I agree because he really did. Like, he gave a goodbye to Asher. They ain't been in that many scenes together since how long? And then he talking to Coach Montez. I think he talked to Jabari. And I'm like, these characters that nobody is really invested in a Billy and them relationship. And the
Yeah.
thing I kept seeing on Twitter is everybody saying, well, this is a show about Billy and Spencer. That's how much people think that they're connected because this show ain't even, Billy ain't even no main character. He's a supporting. But people think that this show is about them so much because they're dynamic. So it should have been them. But I did like that at least the final thing he said was sent to Spencer at least.
I like that it was sent to Spencer. And I think it was like completely necessary. Like the voicemail was completely necessary. Him saying it was a I think it was a long monologue, as it should be, right? The voicemail. But he was
Yeah.
basically telling Spencer how grateful he was for their relationship, and part of the reason that he accepted the job at GAU was to be his coach again because he loved being his coach. And he said, "You are my All-American." Like all of that stuff. I think all of that stuff was necessary, and the All-American line was touching, right? It's a nod back
Yeah.
to the show, right? Like you are my All-American, all the way back to the jump, and I think my issue is it's twofold. It's twofold. Um, I think that they made Spencer feel the emotional weight of this death, which I agree with. I don't think Liv, Jordan, and Laura got that same emotional weight. And that's what I don't like. And I want to compare it to Sean's death in season 1.
Okay.
Like we got the emotional weight with Spencer as we should because he's the protagonist. But do you know who else got the emotional weight of that? Coop, right? Because Coop was helping him get his life back together.
Yeah.
And we got to see a whole moment where like Coop was there and, everything that happened after that, the trajectory of that. I don't feel like in some ways I like that it was so sudden for Jordan, Liv, and Laura, but also it was just like nothing was really happening for them as a family. Like sure, they threw in a Baker family breakfast at the beginning and said, "Oh, we're going to do this again." Right? But okay, and you know what I mean? Like if you really wanted it to be sudden for the family, you've given the family members, his actual family members, no emotional stake in this. And that is what I have a problem with. Obviously, there's an emotional stake because he's their dad, but
You know what though?
Jordan just being like, go ahead.
I think next episode will be about them. I think they were trying to show it the way he's the community's dad, he's the town's dad. Some kind of, I guess that's how they thought they were doing it. So I'm thinking since in the trailer you saw Laura talking about she shared him with the community, now she's not sharing him with nobody else. I think the next episode is really going to focus on the family. I hope so at least.
But and here's the thing, and yeah, this is gonna blur a little bit into predictions because I agree and I like that. But this is what the writers have been doing that I have not been pleased with. Is like just and sure, I get it to a certain degree. But making it seem that everything is about Crenshaw. Like I just like to your point, this thing that we haven't even gotten to this part yet, and I feel like now is a good time to bring it up. Like Spencer was doing too much. Like let's call a spade a spade. Spencer was doing too much, and it's just like why does Billy like let's think for a second. Why does Billy have to shoulder
Oh my god, thank
The
you.
weight
Somebody
of
else said
Crenshaw.
it. Oh my god, somebody else said
Why?
it.
And Billy talking about, oh, he loved it because he was a father. That was never his thing. Like, why are we lying? Maybe it became about that for him, but Billy of season 1 and 2 was. Let me literally take it by seasons. Billy of season 1 and 2 was about ambitious Billy. Was
Mm-hmm.
about him pursuing his ambitions and him needing to find his way back to his family. Season 1 and 2. Season 3 was about him continuing to help and mold Spencer. Was season 3. That is the reason why he went to Crenshaw. He didn't go to Crenshaw out of some sort of like, I need to go back to Crenshaw, right? It was like Spencer asked him to, and so he went. There was never any pull to say like, I need to give back to my community. That was all Spencer. And Billy was just along for the ride. And then in
True.
season 4, it was just like this arc. And to that point, maybe it's because they had these discussions. They said at mid season 4 is when I think Tay first brought this up to NK, I think. And so they started this arc about him being the principal. But if you remember, that arc sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because it was literally like just like he was fine with coaching or whatever. There was no, he never talked about he did the financial literacy thing, which was to help the players, but he never had any more ambition in like being a part of the school. And then all of a sudden it was just like, oh, I'm going to be temporary principal and now I want this, blah blah blah. But
Let me tell
again,
you
yeah, go
what
ahead.
let me tell you what really bugs me. Okay, so you stated a few minutes ago how Spencer really put it on Billy to be there for the kids, to be that
Yeah,
person. He
projecting, I think.
he kept stressing how there was nobody else who could do it. He has
Yep.
to be them for those kids. But like in real life, somebody eventually the character, the person, whatever, dies. So it's like, watch there's gonna be somebody else who could be there for those kids, and that means
Yeah.
somebody could have been there this whole time. Billy could have
Yeah.
been living his dream job.
At that part, and to your point about they're having Laura say this thing where it's just like, I shared him with everybody, da da da. But if you've noticed in the past couple of episodes, and I'm going to include Coop in this, they keep making it seem like, and I'm gonna try to word this in the best way possible. I don't know, I've had a long day, but they're making it seem like folks from Beverly have no, like, they don't really know what they're talking about, right? Like, they don't, like, I feel like this whole arc of Spencer saying, how dare Billy stay, is like at complete odds with what Olivia and Jordan and Laura have said to Billy about pursue your dreams. If we're even going, and here's another example that I think is good, parallel to this, a good dichotomy to this, is Coop earlier in the season screaming in Laura's face saying like, no one's ever going to care about the community like I do. And then they make Laura's, what is it, aide or whatever, I don't remember his name, but the aide for the law firm forget to file a brief for Preach, and she's just like, and this is why you shouldn't have taken me off the case in the first place. So they're basically making it seem like no matter how ridiculous it is, like, people from Crenshaw are correct, and Crenshaw is the most important thing. The community. No one's gonna survive if I'm not there to help my community.
Everybody is turning into mini Spencers about the doggone community.
You summed it up perfectly.
Crenshaw. I always think
We're
about
all putting on the cape. We're all putting on the cape to save Crenshaw, and like that. Like, yes, again, you put it perfectly. We're all putting on the cape to save Crenshaw, and I just feel like that's not fair to the individual stories of the other
really
characters. And I think some of the best stuff, some of the stuff they should have leaned more heavily on, was the fact that Billy was becoming a better father. Like, that was his arc. That was his arc, I think. And maybe that's just like my bias. I love Liv, obviously, and I love Laura, obviously. And so, like, his whole thing was to become a better father and a better husband, and to put coaching in a secondary place. And I feel like with the way that he died, the way that they wrote his death, being an actual father and a husband were still secondary to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But
And so that's why I'm upset. But go ahead.
I did like how right before they made that petty thing about and you have time and then he had no more. I did like how he was able to talk about fatherhood a little bit.
Yeah, and I just wish, but that's what I'm saying is like that those were the moments that resonated with me, and I wish they had made it about like and I'm considering the whole trajectory of the Tim, again, and I'll drop the article also, the two articles in the description. One is from TV Line that interviewed NK and Tay, and another one is from the Hollywood Reporter. But this plan that has been in place for a year and a half, I wish it, and I feel like it did, and it's just like the last few episodes, like why did him coaching at GAU, why did that have to be the big story? Like, why couldn't that be the secondary story? Whereas I feel like him being a father and a good husband should have been the primary one, but it was the secondary one in terms of his, the plan to kill his character off.
Yeah. I did like that he got to have the article with Liv, but I don't know, did he have much with Jordan?
But that's what I'm saying. Like they said, I don't know. The low hanging fruit was right there because he did have the article with Liv, and that's what I'm saying. It's just like, and to that point about like why did it have to happen in this episode? Imagine like the heartbreak we would feel if something came up about the article that involved Billy because he was a part of the article and that's when he died. Like just to that point, that's what I'm talking about. Is like they planted so many seeds for them to make him being a father the primary thing, for him to come full circle as a father. And he almost did, but seeing the way they just like dropped that and left it on, we're having a family dinner or we're having a family breakfast. I mean, they at least could have brought out back the ribs or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just made it a bigger deal. But maybe I'm just ranting for nothing. I just and then it's the fact, I didn't even get into this, but it's the fact that they also made Grace the person to tell his family they died. Like, not only do Grace and Spencer and Jordan was there or whatever, but not only do Grace and Spencer get to spend his last day with him, right? Grace was there. She gets to relay the news, not having the mistress relay the news. Like, why are you in Oakland? Why is Grace even there? Like, let's be real. She should be in Oakland.
Why did she come back? Because it wasn't for the combine, was it? So why was she there?
It was for the combine. That's what I'm... Joretta, that's what weird. I'm saying. That's why I'm upset. Because I was just like, why are they dedicating this episode to it being about Grace being okay with Billy and Spencer still needing time to heal? Spencer needing time to heal, completely valid. But putting all of this weight on the Jameses when his family is right there.
So do you think it should have been Asher and Jordan to come deliver the news?
I don't know if I think, honestly, I would have just preferred, like, That's a good
Police
question.
officer?
It's yeah, like a police officer. Like maybe they're at the. I mean, I feel like the hospital is overused, so I don't mind it. But like, yeah, a police officer, maybe Asher and Jordan. But it just felt like it was just like Grace is just there. I don't know. For me, it's like less about her. It is about her delivering the news, but it's like particularly like her being the one to tell the family. Like, why does she have that moment? Like, I don't know. That's so insulting to me.
Oh no.
Obviously, she was the best character to do it because she's like an adult, blah blah blah. But it's
And
just
Jordan was in
like
shock.
Jordan was in shock, but like he also had an affair with this woman. Like, let's not forget. I don't know, and I'm just like, why is she?
I mean, they had their own vortex too. The original.
Talk me, look, talk me out of this. Talk me out of ranting on this point. But I don't know. It just, to me, it was another indication that they put too much stock. They put too much stock in Grace's and Spencer's reaction to Billy's coaching, and I feel like I just didn't like that Grace and Spencer were the only two characters to have this like direct weight attached to them. And I don't even know how to like fully explain that because I'm like struggling with my words right now. But it's like Grace and Spencer were upset about this GAU coaching job. His whole arc in this episode was that he decided, right? Despite what his family said and they were happy for him, whatever, he decided because Spencer was upset. And even though they didn't say this in this episode, but it's because Spencer and Grace were upset, he was just like, I'm doing the wrong thing and I need to do the right thing. And now it's just like, not only is he like doing the right thing, which Grace and Spencer told him to do, now Grace gets to go tell his family. Like, Grace gets to, after spending all day with him, Grace gets to go tell his family that he died. And I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it does.
I don't know. Like, in that scene, I wasn't even thinking about her too much because you know who really got me? Samantha, like the
she
way
killed
she
it.
reacted, shaking her head, looking traumatized. That was so perfect acting. That's exactly how you would imagine somebody doing something when they don't want to hear the truth, but they already know the truth. Like that was amazing. I don't know how she did that, but yeah, that was great.
I also like, I don't know, there's different opinions on that, but I thought like all of the reactions were valid, right? Like Jordan was in shock.
Yeah,
Because
he
Jordan
did good. I don't
witnessed
like
it.
how people coming for him. He did good.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly how you would react.
Michael was playing someone who just witnessed their father die. Like, what? Like,
And he got to keep it pulled together to tell his family. Like,
yeah. Like,
I've been in traumatizing situations where I had to be the strong one, and I can tell you that is not easy.
Look, exactly. And so that was, and like Laura breaking down, like Laura doubled over, Layla crying. These are just the ones I saw. Spencer dropping the phone, like I think
mad.
all of those.
I was mad when he dropped that phone because I was like, man, he done broke the phone. He done left you his last dying message. What if you break the phone? I wasn't even thinking about the cloud. I was just mad in that moment. I was emotional.
Not you mad at Spencer. I'm mad at Spencer because he's like angry, upset for no reason. But you're like, what? Now you broke the phone.
I was like, what about? I forgot all about the cloud. I was all old school in my head. I was like, no, it's gone forever.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I forgot about the cloud. Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought all of their reactions were valid. And so, I mean, look, I can talk until I'm blue in the face about what I didn't like about it. But I will say, again, if there was one thing I liked about the execution of this story, I do like that he got a chance to talk to some of the kids he mentored. I think that was really great. I love the phone conversation with Spencer. And I know Spencer's going to take that really hard, but I need Spencer to know that Billy doesn't hold it against him, right? And I feel like this
Yeah.
voicemail is evidence about that. Like, they could have sent Spencer in the trenches, but I feel like that voicemail is a gift, okay? That voicemail is a gift because it shows that Billy wasn't mad at Spencer at the end of the day.
Let me ask you something. What moment in this episode, like when was the moment? Because I know as writers, we see stuff coming quicker than most people. So what was that moment where you was like, oh my goodness, Billy is about to die?
I think it was the stuff with Jordan, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it was him because, number one, they have had nobody clock Jordan and Layla. And so to give Billy that moment at the top, where he clocked it, where he gave the little look, and then him figuring it out and being like, I give Layla my blessing, and Jordan not being upset with him after he just dropped the news. Like I said, the stuff, again, surprisingly, it was just Jordan and Layla stuff. The stuff with Layla's father about legacy, I knew it. Because I feel like Asher's storyline was, I was just like, are they running some games? Are they gonna kill off Asher? Is what I was leaning towards with that. But like everything with Jordan and or Layla, I was just like Billy for sure.
Okay.
And then I definitely knew it when he, like, I had, even after he was saved, when this man was like frantic, I was just like, oh, they gonna kill him for sure. I was just like
1,000% or something. Like
I was like, this man. I literally was like, this man is about to collapse. This man is about to collapse. But also in the back of my mind, because I had said, I was just like, Jabari's going to die, had been my prediction. And I had noticed that nobody was talking about Jabari and we hadn't seen Jabari. So I was just like, okay. But they had it, like, they had a whole, 2 scenes where they didn't talk about Jabari until Billy suddenly was just like, where's Jabari? And I was like, oh, that's how he dies. He goes, tries to save Jabari, which... Is Jabari alive? Is Jabari dead? I'm gonna assume he's dead.
I hope he was able to save him and at least died a hero, but it don't look good. Cause
I don't know. Like, they didn't say. The other thing was, like, they didn't say in it. They didn't say, like, he died trying to save Jabari or blah blah blah. You know what I mean? I feel like that's something that it was just interesting.
At that buzz, and I feel like I could tell you exactly how he died, even though they didn't want me to go into specifics.
Oh yeah. I know how he died too. That thing fell over the cliff. That's trigger warning. Post. But yeah. So I'm not sure if Jabari is alive or dead. We'll find out next episode. But yeah, I think that. So what was the moment you knew?
Look, I suspected when he was talking to Coach Montez and stuff. But when
I was so glad she was back too.
When the confirmation for me that I knew it was over was when he called Spencer and Spencer turned off the phone. I was like, oh my goodness, this a death trope. I know a death trope. Oh yeah.
I know a death trope when I see one. You didn't think it was when he gave his little blessing? I was just like, oh, that's death trope all the way.
It might have been, but I probably wasn't paying attention, or I might have thought it in that moment, but don't remember it now. But I know for sure the phone. I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah. There were so many moments where I was like, that's it. But I think,
and then when he looked back at Grace before looking at the bus, I was like, I thought he was gonna say I love you or something before he went in the bus, like just declare his love for her real quick.
Nah, oh my god, please.
Oh man, he had his chance.
Look, and you were questioning why I was mad that Grace was the one to tell Laura no, goodbye. Just so disrespectful until the very end. But you know what? Whatever. That's how you lived your life. So whatever. Didn't care about your wife or kids when you were alive, and certainly not as you were going to your demise. Sorry about it. Or should I say, he only cared about his kid, which is Spencer.
Right.
Spencer apparently all the other football players except for Jordan.
Like, did he even tell Jordan he loved him? I can't remember. Like when they was outside.
No, that's what I'm. Don't get me upset again. Don't get me upset again, because I think. Don't get me upset again. Like I said, like, have this whole sentiment. And here's the thing. Oh, and let's switch over to predictions. I think this is good. place to switch to predictions. Thanks for listening to Film Study and All-American Universe podcast, and stay tuned for our predictions. I know I had a lot of thoughts about this episode for sure, and still have some thoughts about it. But it's settling in now. So yeah, stay tuned for our predictions. Stay tuned for next week when we review episode 12, and yeah, see you there.